Hello and welcome to Foot the Bill, where we audit your favorite media. My name is Trey, and I am lost at sea. Why am I lost at sea? Because I'm on the hunt for Jack Sparrow!
Captain Jack Sparrow, if you please, sir.
The worst pirate you've ever heard of. Or is he? Is this swashbuckling Rizzler actually a terrible pirate, incapable of pirating a single piratable thing? Or does the captain of the Black Pearl hide riches in his breeches by the end of the voyage? Let's find out. But first, the rules.
More what you'd call guidelines than actual rules.
We'll be tracking everything that Jack steals, pillages, runs off, absconds with, and borrows without asking. Since Pirates of the Caribbean takes place around 1730, we'll be estimating the value of those items as they were depicted in 1730, and then adjusting them for inflation after the fact. We'll also be tracking it in the currency of the era, pounds, shilling, pence, denominated thusly. That's a British pound, that's 20 shillings to a pound, and 12 pence to a shilling. It's totally reasonable, don't forget it. So, does Jack Sparrow walk away with pockets full of naught but ash? Or will he be crowned King of Pirates, richest man in the Caribbean? Let's find out. The movie begins with some foggy weather in the morning, should be clearing up by mid-afternoon. Elizabeth Swann is getting educated on capital punishment. But she's kind of into it.
Actually, I find it all fascinating.
Me too! She spies a boy in the water and promptly robs him blind, or at least unconscious. But we're not tracking Elizabeth's piracy. We're tracking a different pirate's piracy. While Elizabeth gets a little tied up,
I'm told it's the latest fashion in London.
Well, women in London must have learnt not to breathe.
that boy in the water has grown up to be quite the blacksmith's assistant. Ooh, good with the hands, huh? Oh, maybe he's better with a sword.
Impressive.
Neat. But finally, we see the arrival of a true captain, a true sailor, a true man of the Caribbean, Captain Jack Sparrow. Your boat is sinking. Jack glides smoothly into harbor, where he's accosted by the man whose job it is to figure out who's docking in the harbor.
It's a shilling to tie up your boat at the dock.
It's a shilling to dock at the harbor, but Jack offers 3 for the anonymity.
What do you say to 3 shillings? Well, we forget the name.
He swipes the day's takings at the stand and saunters on. Finally! Alright, let's do some math and some research. That book that Jack lays his bribe onto is the Bill of Entry, which lists all the boats docked currently. The pages are mostly full, but so are the docks, and it looks like everything from larger ships to rowboats and dinghies have to pay. I count possibly 47 entries across those pages, so that's 47 shillings potentially in that little pouch. Not a bad take. Back in town, Norrington is getting a promotion. Dang, assistant manager already? And it comes with key duties. Elizabeth is unimpressed and promptly passes out from boredom.
Elizabeth?
Jack, meanwhile, is boat shopping, but he's having trouble getting a good feel for them. These salesmen suck. You better just guide yourself. The negotiations are cut short by the unconscious Swan and her medallion of bad weather. At least it's not foggy anymore. Ah, fuck me, it's foggy. Jack assassinates Elizabeth's corset, but is promptly arrested for seeing her underwear. Oh, and piracy, I guess. But today he's shopping.
I don't see your ship, Captain.
I'm in the market, as it were.
Jack uses his lucky feet to re-roll this whole scenario and promptly escapes. Unfortunately, he chooses Will's workshop as his hiding place. Will takes this personally, and the two duke it out right up until Jack gets conked by the sleeping blacksmith. That seems like cheating. That night, Norrington and the governor are talking about the stress of wigs in the workplace and the unnatural amount of fog that they keep experiencing when pirates attack. Jack spots the Black Pearl in the harbor and all hell breaks loose. The pirates are raiding like crazy, up to and including making it all the way to the governor's mansion. The bourgeoisie princess tries to arm herself, but her defense is hollow like her class, and she is left to hide. These pirates can smell her medallion, but didn't bank on her being a lawyer. She calls for parley, and by all means, she'll have it.
Blazes with the code.
She wants to be taken to the captain.
And she'll go without a fuss.
Man, these pirates are pillaging like crazy. Is Jack able to take advantage of any of this? Nope, he's still behind bars. No cash for Jack. Just some old friends. Jack bemoans the hell that is boat shopping, but they are unsympathetic.
You know nothing of hell.
On the Black Pearl, Elizabeth is introduced to Captain Barbossa, who outparlays the parlayer and takes her hostage.
Welcome aboard the Black Pearl, Miss Turner.
The next morning, Will wakes up with a mind to save Elizabeth. He determines that Jack is the best route for saving her and sets out to free Jack. They agree to terms and abscond to the beach. Their plan is developed. They will steal a ship.
Commandeer. We're gonna commandeer that ship, Nautical Town.
Oh, right, sorry. They're going to commandeer a ship, the Interceptor, by taking control of the Dauntless. That's an interesting plan. The two water walk their way to the galleon and promptly kick the skeleton crew off. Norrington understandably decides to kick some pirate butt.
Here they come.
Will and Jack take the opportunity to hop onto the Interceptor and set sail. Don't worry though, they've disabled the rudder chain on the Dauntless, clearing their escape quite easily. Now that Jack is behind the wheel of a pretty boat, let's figure out just how much he's sailing away with. The Interceptor is a 112-foot brig weighing 90 tons and carrying 16 cannons and 2 swivels. It is actually portrayed by a recreation of the USS Lady Washington, which was built originally in 1787. Geez, no wonder it's so fast. It's sailing in from the future! But we can still use its stats and in-universe history to inform us on comparable ships. Our primary source for ship data in this film is going to be Riff Winfield's British Warships in the Age of Sail, 1714 to 1792. If you have any interest in the finer details of shipbuilding, maintenance, and resale value from the British Empire, look no further. We can find 4 ships that match our specs for the Interceptor. The Seahorse from 1728, the Dolphin from 1730, the Siren from 1744, and the Amazon from 1747. Now, every ship carried a different price based on available materials, supplies, dock hands, the dock it was built in, etc. Very rarely do you get a specific metric for manufacture, but we can look at estimates. There's also certain aspects that change the value of a ship. For example, both the Seahorse and the Dolphin were pirate hunters, but they were also refitted from the bodies of older ships. This effectively doubles their cost, but not necessarily their resale value. Not to mention, having the ship fitted, that is, filling it with all the rope and the canvas and the supplies necessary for it to be a ship on the water for more than a day, could cost almost as much as building the ship at all, thus potentially doubling the expenses. That said, for a ship that's meant to be built for speed, limited on firepower, and based on a French design, and intended to be a ship of the line, we can calculate the construction and fitting value of the Interceptor to be around 4,812 British pounds at the time. Now, to put that into perspective, Jack and Will basically stole a small warship from the Navy. The Interceptor is worth much more than just the sum of its parts. And as such, that changes the type of inflation calculation that we apply here. That 4,812 pounds in 1730 represents close to 142,400,000 British pounds in 2022. Now that's what I call Piracy Volume 1. Out on the ocean, Jack admits to knowing Will's dad, and that Will's pops was a pirate.
I swear you look just like him.
It's not true.
Although I guess he wasn't a very good pirate because he's not really around anymore, is he? The two arrive at Tortuga to plan their next step and locate one Joshua Gibbs to pull it off. Although it seems Jack is in debt to quite a few people along the way.
Scarlet!
Who was she?
What?
Jack propositions Gibbs to hunt down the Black Pearl, but to do so, he'll need a crew.
I'll find us a crew. There's bound to be some sailors on this rock crazy as you.
One can only hope.
Meanwhile, on the Black Pearl, Elizabeth is getting queer eye for the pirate guide into a new dress and being served a scrumptious, ice-cold dinner. Barbossa knows she's hungry, so he invites her to indulge herself while he explains the biz at hand. You see, that medallion is actually Aztec gold, one of 882 identical pieces delivered in a stone chest to Cortez. The gold is cursed, however, and anyone who takes but a piece is left hollow, hungry, and skeletal in the moonlight. Elizabeth is jazzed by this, boats and does a dance with the pirates on deck. Jack's crew is assembled, all incredibly talented and not a one with a grudge against him.
Anna Maria.
You stole my boat.
Actually,
Ooh, except Anna Maria. Apparently Jack owes her a boat, but Will offers up the Interceptor as recompense. Since we don't see anyone handing over the keys, I won't be removing this from Jack's loot. Not yet. I mean, not unless some catastrophic storm comes along and threatens their very survival. That storm is a dimensional shortcut though, or as Jack tells Gibbs,
we're catching up.
at the Isla de Muerta, Elizabeth is taken ashore to perform the profane ritual to decursify the piratey lads. I hope the island doesn't sneeze them out. That dang fog is back, and Jack and the gang pull up on the island, just in time for Gibbs to admit that Jack was once captain of the Black Pearl before he was viciously mutinied upon by Barbossa.
It was a mutiny. They marooned Jack on an island and left him to die.
Dicks. Jack and Will sneak onto the island, debating whether Will is becoming a pirate or not.
Not all treasure is silver and gold, mate.
He's right, sometimes it's boats and clothes. They spot Elizabeth about to get bled onto some cursed gold, but for some reason it doesn't work. She reveals her last name isn't actually Turner, and Barbossa responds with a backhand. Will conks Jack on the head and rescues Elizabeth, and the two flee back to the Interceptor with the medallion. Jack wakes up from his concussion and parcels his way onto the Black Pearl. Now in pursuit of the Interceptor. Will and Elizabeth pull some sweet Sea of Thieves maneuvers, but to no avail. Jack's new boat damages his old boat.
Stop blowing holes in my ship!
But ultimately, the Pearl takes the Interceptor. Well, I mean, the hull looks mostly intact, and they're pretty close to shore. Maybe they can just take it in, get it repaired. Ooh, nope. They blew it up. Well, sorry, Jack. Wait, wasn't Will still on that? Oh, good, he's okay. Ooh, kinda. Man, people suck at negotiating with Barbossa. He's like a genie. You have to be very, very specific. In this case, Jack and Elizabeth are getting dumped on an island that Jack ought to be very familiar with.
That be the same little island that we made you governor of on our last little trip.
I did notice.
Jack and Elizabeth get tossed. Barbossa's crew comments on the length of the movie.
Too long!
And we're taken beachside to where Jack reveals his familiarity with the island's secrets. It turns out Black Sam Spit is actually home to a secret cache of rum runner supplies. Some nicely aged rum in there, I bet. Actually, with Jack governor of the island, he just acquired all that rum. Let's calculate what we can see. Jack and Elizabeth both party down with a handle each, and in this heartbreaking shot of the morning after, we see Elizabeth burning everything else from inside the cache. Well, I guess we can calculate what Jack just lost. So there's a method to the madness that is barrel sizes. As we can see, that little guy up front is called a runlet. I love when the British name stuff, it's so ridiculous. Anyway, there's a few runlets about, there's more than a few tierces as well, so let's approximate and do some math. By my estimation, we can count 4 tierces, 9 barrels, 4 runlets, and 4 cases with 6 bottles in each. But how do we approximate the value? Well, this report of the commissioners on the Bureau of Labor Statistics to the legislature from June 1872 quotes prices for goods back in the wee year of 1732. Quote, a gallon of rum was 10 shillings, but 10 pounds of lard was more favorable for inebriates than present prices. So 10 shillings for a gallon or 10 pounds of lard, your choice. That puts this whole collection of rum worth approximately 266 pounds 15 shillings, or adjusted for inflation, 48,500 pounds, which might explain why Jack is always asking why the rum's gone. Elizabeth is busy burning a new car's worth of rum, and Jack can't handle it. He marches to the other side of the island and spots rescue on the horizon.
There'll be no living with her after this.
Jack successfully negotiates Elizabeth into imprisonment and himself into guiding Norrington back to the Pearl. Jack shows up just in time to ruin Barbossa's ritual, but again persuades him into a different strategy. Stay cursed a bit longer, go get the Brits, get yourself a bigger ship, and for the cherry on top, a new hat.
I'll buy you the hat. A really big one. Commodore. Barbossa
thinks this is a great idea, but knowing him, he'll probably just drop Jack off on an island again. Thankfully, Jack got himself an insurance policy and pocketed one of the cursed Aztec coins. You know what? Let's calculate that bit of plunder. The 1730 value of a fine ounce of gold was approximately £5 9 shillings. At the same time, a guinea was 0.3 ounces of gold. So we'll estimate the mass of gold by comparing a guinea to one of the cursed Aztec medallions. But how? I don't have a medallion. Or do I? Back in the early 2000s, 1-to-1 replicas of the medallion were produced, and the editor happened to have bought one. We can measure the medallion and compare it in its size to the known dimensions of a royal guinea from 1730, then extrapolate its mass in gold. Yes, it's dirty math. I don't care. The replica is 1/5/8 inches across, which is 1.625 inches or 41.275 millimeters. A guinea, meanwhile, is 26 millimeters. Some math later, and we have an estimated weight of 0.476 ounces of gold. Multiply this by the value of the gold, and that medallion is worth approximately 2 pounds at the time, or 6,749 British pounds in 2022. Not bad. Not bad. And that's not even including the added value of its cursed nature, which I will not be calculating here. Not yet, anyway. The cursed crew goes off to futz about with the redcoats, and Jack starts poking fun at Barbossa and freeing Will. Meanwhile, Elizabeth has freed Jack's crew on the Black Pearl and is making her way back to the cave.
They're stealing our ship!
Bloody pirates!
I'll come back to that. Jack and Barbossa are in an epic battle when a single shot rings out. Will had swiped Jack's coin, bled on both, and ended the curse, along with Barbossa's life.
Killing is distasteful!
Unfortunately, that does remove the coin from Jack's loot count. Dang, man. Can't catch a break. But he is currently in a cave full of treasure. Okay. Let's see, he's got quite a fair amount of pearls, some platters, a goblet, and is that a crown? Where'd they even get a crown? How do I estimate the value of a crown? So I started doing research on this, and I determined it might be one of the crowns crafted for King Louis of France, or at least one of the King Louis, a part of the ancient regime. See, all the crowns of that line were lost in the 1790s. Apparently there was a big thing happening in France, but there's a possibility that one of them was stolen by Barbossa and his crew as they were sailing around the Caribbean, pillaging for 10 years as immortals. However, just as I was beginning to assemble an estimate on this collected value of priceless artifacts, Jack is arrested by Norrington, and it's all forfeit anyway. Motherfuck. Jack is to be hanged, but Will has other plans. He confesses his love to Elizabeth.
I should have told you every day from the moment I met you. I love you.
I did not see that coming, and tosses his sword under Jack's feet. A nice rhyme to their first interaction. Jack lives. The two fend off a fair amount of guards, but ultimately, they are surrounded. Will and Elizabeth stake their lives to protect Jack, and Norrington shows he has a heart after all. Jack tries to say something smarmy, but falls off the edge and drowns. I'm kidding, he's fine. So fine that he's even got the Black Pearl waiting for him, which means we can add that to his haul. So if the Interceptor was approximately 4,812 pounds in 1730, the Black Pearl is on an entirely different level. It's a galleon coming in at 165 feet in length. It features 32 cannons across 2 decks with a decently sized captain's quarters and a large hold for stowing cargo. Add to that its fully repaired 3 masts of sails, and you're looking at one beastie of a ship. Once again, we're using Riff Winfield's research to guide us here. The Black Pearl is light on armament for a ship of its size, but the primary source of a ship's cost does not necessarily come from armament. Since the construction of a ship is considered an investment in its lifetime of work, and the Black Pearl serviced primarily as a trading vessel with a rather large body of work under a few different flags, it's more than earned its cost. And that estimated cost of construction with comparable vessels puts it at 22,551 pounds at the time. Adjusting for inflation, that's approximately 478 million pounds. Jack Sparrow climbs aboard and is given command of the vessel. He eyes his next destination, the horizon, freedom, and all that comes with it.
Drink up, me hearties, yo-ho.
So, how did Jack fare? And how does it stack up to how much he spent to get there? Let's find out. In total, Jack pirated approximately 26,634 pounds and 12 shillings worth of loot, swag, booty, and boats. However, everything but the Black Pearl was confiscated, burnt, or blown up, so really he just gets the pearl. Throughout the film, he spends 3 shillings, which is an amazing return on investment. But also, Jack didn't necessarily steal the pearl so much as steal it back, so one could argue that he actually walked away with no profit and 3 shillings poorer.
That's got to be the best pirate I've ever seen.
So it would seem.
Well, there you have it, Jack Sparrow, pirate extraordinaire. I hope you enjoyed this goofy side mission where we foolishly analyze one of our favorite movies. Goofs and gaffs aside, this video would not have been possible without the help of Riff Winfield's extraordinary research and the skills of all the economics historians over at measuringvalue.com. They do the heavy lifting so that I can tell jokes and mishmash things together in a semi-cohesive manner. I'd also like to thank everyone over at Patreon and our YouTube members for supporting us. Y'all are fantastic. To anyone who wants to sign up, there's links below, but again, do not feel obligated. Just being here is so great, and I'm so happy watching our community grow. As I type this, we're almost 20,000 strong, which is nuts. Thank you so much for taking a chance with something new. Next up is probably more Saw, and as we get closer to summer, we'll start doing our summer slashers as well. That's right, if the first leg of Foot the Bill is insane big purchases, and the second leg is heists, then the third leg is property damage. How many windows, garage doors, and TVs get ruined by your favorite slashers on their way to stab a teenager? Tune in and find out when we see if Ghostface can foot the bill in Scream. Again, thank you so much, everyone. You make this possible. Stay healthy, know that you're loved, and remember, I'm here to make stuff if you're here to watch.